Are you tired of being an adult? Like, do sometimes you wish that you were a kid again and you can just do fun things like getting paid for a hobby, right? So, this week on Motivation and Confidence, we're going to talk about 3 things you can do to identify a hobby. Stay tuned. This is Motivation and Confidence, where we help you do your daily best. And I'm your host, Tom Danger. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. It's just me and you this week. It's just me and you every week. I always wanted to feel like I got my arm around you. Or if you don't like to be touched, I'm in the room with you. And we're just having a conversation. And if you have been, wait, before I forget, please forgive me. Please like, subscribe, and share this podcast with someone that you think could use some words of encouragement, a good laugh, or just something different to listen to. Definitely appreciate that. So, if you've been following along on the journey, right? We talked about in episode 1 about writing things down. So when you write things down, it's a way that you can sort of put it into the universe and somehow let the magic happen. Okay? Throughout nearly 200 episodes, we've been documenting the transition from employee to employer. And in part of that, we've been fortunate enough to figure out how to monetize a hobby. So I ask you, what hobby are you into? Like what do you dig? Like what do you enjoy? What can you do that you lose time in, that you almost feel like a kid again? And for me, I'll share my story. It's rapping, right? So we talk about, things you could do to find that hobby. One of the things is looking at your childhood and what things you did during your childhood that makes you feel as if you're a kid again. When I first fell in love with hip hop, sounds like Brown Sugar, right? First fell in love with hip hop. It was a record that was called Veronica Veronica, and I was about, I always forget, I'm gonna say about 12 years old. I just love this record. It touched me. And for those of you who follow me on Instagram, like every Friday, I drop a freestyle. I rap. This is 2 years straight consistently, to the point to where, I've put out a few singles in the past year, as well as an EP. But every time that I hear a beat, a sound, or something that inspires me, I just want to get on the microphone and feel like a kid again. And that's my why. So it's part of figuring out your why. Like, some people, they look at what you do, and because they don't necessarily understand it, they question it, or they try to cast stones. But don't worry about what other people think. That thing that you did when you were a kid is what's going to drive you and fuel you. It's going to help recharge you to offset the other stuff that you go through in life, because we all know that you may have a job that you don't particularly care for, but you're doing it to take care of your family. You may have struggles in your relationship, friendships, family situations that may be difficult. But it's like when you tap into this hobby, you get a chance to get lost in time and just be free creatively. Now, don't get stifled with thinking about what other people are going to think. Just think about that kid, right? And for those of us that have children, you know how it is when you look at kids that are playing. Like when you look at kids when they're super young, like on the playground, like they just running around in circles and they don't even have anything to play with. That's just the natural energy of kids, man. Like they feel happy until we as adults start to dump crap on them, and then they start thinking and becoming super conscious about things, and we put restrictions and fear on them, like, you're gonna fall and don't play with that and put that in your mouth. I'm not saying kids should not, safety is not first. Safety is always first. It's just sometimes we have to be mindful of if we put our limiting fears on our kids as opposed to letting them really explore. So again, the first thing is reclaiming what you did in your childhood and applying that to a hobby. Okay. The second thing would be if you think about what you already do, how could you flip that into a hobby? I love food and I love drinks. So another thing that I had done was, I'm far from a food critic, but I was able to set up some sort of, on Google Maps, you can become like a local guide. And, prior to the pandemic, anytime we would go out to a restaurant or something, I would snap a picture and I leave a review. And, one of those pictures got over 1 million views. It was just, one of those things where you don't even think about it, but like, your voice really matters. Like, people care about your experience and what you think of things and how things taste and all that stuff, One second. Don't minimize what it is that you do, thinking that you have to be on some grand scale or that you need to have it all figured out. You don't have to have any of it figured out. All you have to do is basically have the idea. And from the idea, just take baby steps into it, whether it's using your phone, whether it's writing some notes about it. I mean, the phone is pretty much, the supercomputer that everybody uses, so you want to have that. But even if you don't want to use your phone, you can write about it and post it on a blog, or write about it and put it on Twitter, or you can write about it and post it in a local paper, or there's so many different avenues that you can look at things, If you like movies, you can, review movies online. There's the opportunities right now are endless. Like, you can start a channel or a social media account and talk about anything. And if you're an introvert and you don't want your face to be, on the screen, even better, right? Because you can let the images or the videos speak for themselves. Check it out. You don't even have to use your voice. You can get an animated voice, just type in the words that you want it to say, and it'll sound like in a robotic voice, so that you can let that rock too. And then, lastly, when you're looking at getting into a hobby, the third thing is something that I've talked about a few times, right? And that's taking an assessment. The assessment that I've used, and I've honestly, I want to say I've taken at least 12 different types, but the one that we speak about all the time is the DISC assessment. The DISC assessment, created by William Markston, has been around since the early 1900s, and it basically identifies what you are good at based on your natural abilities and your adapted abilities. And what's the difference here? Natural is how you do things when people are not looking at you, and adaptive is how you do things when people are looking at you. And it basically identifies 4 different pillars: how you make decisions, how you interact with people, the pace in which you do things, and how you work within processes and procedures. And you can take that assessment. It only takes about 10 minutes, and then you will automatically identify what you are naturally good at. And if you're interested in taking this assessment, as always, complimentary to all the listeners of Motivation and Confidence, feel free to drop a line at tomdanger.com. Just go to tomdanger.com, TOMDANGER.com. Go to that contact form and just say assessment questionnaire, and it's free. I only charge if you want to do some sort of program. So if you want to get on, 1 month, 2 month, 3 months, something like that. But just to get the general assessment is free of charge, and you get a chance to speak with me for about 15 minutes on the phone or via Zoom. So if you'd like to take advantage of that. And get some deeper self-awareness as to, what your strengths and weaknesses are and how you can apply that to your hobby, feel free. As long as you're good to you, you're good to others. This is Motivation and Confidence, where we help you do your daily best.